Hi, we're Daffodils, and this is a Leo Underwater on Breaking It Down.
Warm arms of golden hair. We wrote a Leo Underwater sort of in between the summer of 2017, 2018. We were sort of just like building a live set, and when we wrote that song we were like, oh, this would be a great single, and so it kind of went from there. I think it just like went through a bunch of iterations. It's really interesting hearing back through all our old voice memos of like practicing and writing things for the first time. At the time, I think we'd still only put out one song, which was Two Angels, when we like started writing that one. Because everything sort of takes a whole lot longer than you expect it to when you're releasing stuff. It's weird, that was like the first song we wrote properly post Smoke Free Rockquest. It was kind of different, because it didn't have like a solid purpose, or at least like we weren't used to having anything other than Smoke Free Rockquest to write for. There's like that sort of tremolo choppy effect at the beginning of the song. That's this pedal called the Dark Star. I guess it like inspired it. It was kind of on a whim. It was one of those snap purchases that you're like, I want that. And so I spent a ridiculous amount of money on it. And so that's like a pad reverb, which gets you this like weird synthy effect, which has two pitch oscillators in it. It sounds like a synth line, but it's actually like just a G bar chord through that pad reverb pedal, and then just run it through like a tremolo to chop the volume in and out really sharply. That's kind of how we ended up with that intro. I'm pretty sure that was like the first thing that I came up with, because I'd been mucking around with that pedal for like weeks, just like trying to figure out appropriate use for it. You sound like someone like revving a motorbike.
Well, you always like with the tempo, like
it's like that. Do you want to do it with me? We can harmonize it. It's got a whole bunch of other uses that I just have no idea how to use them, or it's taking up a lot of real estate on my board for that one intro. Yeah, I think the lyrics are weird because when I write lyrics, sometimes they'll come right at the end of the process, or sometimes they'll be like the first thing that I do. And for this one, I think they were relatively early, and then they just sort of changed slightly over time. A lot of the reason that the lyrics will change over time as we like progress through how the song will sound is just because when you're trying to fit stuff in a pop song, it becomes quite complicated to try and write things around lyrics, so you kind of have to focus on fitting the lyrics around the music a bit more. But having that general idea first of what you want it to say, and then being able to cut it down so it fits the music is a good way of doing it. And I find that works for me a lot. That was kind of what happened with this one. But that song was kind of about like leaving high school and like missing people, and it's specifically about a girl. Probably won't go into that too much.
I feel like the most of the structures was just a jam, because the whole bridge section is all like, it's just the chorus chords.
We kind of switched the order of them.
Different levels of like
of the same chords.
Energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the chords for it are super easy. I think it's only 3 chords for the whole song. In the first verse of the song, there's a lyric there that goes, I like lying here in the earth and the sun.
Well, I like lying here in the earth and the sun.
That kind of is a good summary of like the general idea of the lyrics for that song, which is about trying to create like a visual representation of that feeling of, it's kind of like nostalgia, but it's more just like feeling odd about stuff that won't happen again. So like when you're leaving school, obviously your life is going to be like completely different after that. That being like your last sort of summer holiday out of school with your mates, and like I think giving it like a visual representation was a really good thing for I don't know, making it like a bit more concise and like more of like something that people could relate to. The lyrics in the chorus, I kind of just wanted to generally encompass that feeling of like isolation and pulling together that visual metaphor.
Underwater is actually a metaphor for like someone being vague.
Being able to like talk freely with people being muffled. That kind of thing. Yeah, so like that, what it'd be like if you were talking underwater, you get like just kind of incoherent, muffled rambling. Blurry, whatever happens underwater.
Spent the whole summer underwater.
And I guess it sort of relates to the like finishing school and going out, and there's like, you know, a lot of the time you spend all your summer just like mucking around with your mates or whatever.
You spent the whole summer with your head so full of flowers.
Leo Underwater, we recorded at the lab with Joel Mulholland. Joel Mulholland is a musician himself. He's an engineer and a producer in our case. So
We met him on Smoke Free Rock.
that's right, we did. We met him in 2016 when we first ever went into a studio, which was to do a song for Smoke Free Rock West because we had made it to the Nationals. I'd call him like a soundsmith. Like he's just like, he's got heaps of tips about like getting awesome sounds, and he has a whole bunch of awesome synthesizers. Recording that song probably took about 5 days. One of them being in the main room at the lab so we could record drums, and then another couple of days just fine-tuning all the other sounds that we overdubbed. I think Theo spent about 2 hours trying to get the guitar solo right.
Yeah, we always like stack things up way more than we need to, and then spend quite a lot of time cutting it back down as well. So everything ends up like massively oversaturated when we first finish tracking, and then we have to cut a whole bunch of stuff out to make it. Gives you like an opportunity to figure out what stuff is actually important to the song.
When we're in the studio, one of the things we aim for is getting our sound sounding like we sound. Like our songs are like kind of written to be performed live. So when we took it to the studio, we kind of tried to just capture what we had live. We didn't have to think too much about producing it to be more streaming friendly or anything like that. Or we don't want it to sound like there's so many instruments that when someone hears us live, they're like, this sounds nothing like the recording.
Zing!
For the release of Leo Underwater, we have a deal with Cartel, which is a UK distribution company. So it was our first time working with them. For the release of this song, we wanted it to be something more special than the last songs. So we put on a gig at the Tuning Fork, which was our first headline gig we'd ever done, and it sold out, so it was a pretty big success, I think.